United States keeps refusing to sign this treaty. The Prevention of an Arms Race in Outer Space, also called P.A.R.O.S. P.A.R.O.S is a United Nations resolution that reaffirms the fundamental principles of the 1967 Outer Space Treaty and advocates for a ban on the weaponization of space. Unlike the 1967 Outer Space Treaty, which only outlaws nuclear weapons in space and the ownership of any celestial bodies, the P.A.R.O.S Treaty would outlaw all weapons in space. And of course, the Pentagon and US weapons manufacturers have their eye aimed at expanding their markets into outer space and beyond, so this P.A.R.O.S Treaty is not in their interests. But the P.A.R.O.S Treaty is in the interest of humanity and all life on Earth. In fact, almost every year for decades, the overwhelming majority of states around the world have voted in favor for the P.A.R.O.S agreement, with usually only 2 or 3 states abstaining or voting against it. The United States always votes against it. In 1999, the UN resolution P.A.R.O.S was passed by the General Assembly with a vote of 138 to 0, with 2 abstentions. The 2 nations that abstained were the United States and Israel. In the following year, in 2000, a draft resolution on the prevention of an arms race in outer space was adopted by a recorded vote of 163 in favor to none against, with 3 abstentions. It's pretty much been the same ever since. So for decades, despite the majority of the world voting to pass an international agreement to prevent weapons from being stationed in outer space, the United States and its buddy Israel keeps providing a veto towards this treaty. Every recent administration of the United States, whether Democrat or Republican, have refused to join the rest of the world in securing outer space for peaceful purposes. So much for spreading democracy. So why won't the US sign the P.A.R.O.S Treaty? As the Air Force Space Command stated in its 2003 Strategic Master Plan, quote, "The ability to gain space superiority, the ability to exploit space while selectively disallowing it to adversaries, is critically important. And maintaining space superiority is an essential prerequisite in modern warfare." This statement asserts why the US has been withdrawing from treaties, like the ABM Treaty in 2002 and now the INF Treaty this year, and why the US won't sign the P.A.R.O.S Treaty. The Pentagon wants domination, not democracy. The P.A.R.O.S resolution reaffirmed the will of all states that the exploration and use of outer space, including the moon and celestial bodies, shall be for the peaceful purposes and shall be carried out for the benefit and in the interests of all countries. The passage of the resolution is significant because it reflects the growing consciousness that a global democratic debate must now ensue if we are to keep space from becoming the next arena of military warfighting operations, as the US Space Command envisions, especially with the Trump administration pushing for a space force. China and Russia have produced several working papers on P.A.R.O.S, which offer suggestions for different confidence-building measures together with suggested verification measures. Some of these include exchanges of information, demonstrations, notifications, consultations, and thematic workshops. In 2008, China and Russia submitted a draft treaty to the Conference on Disarmament. It's the UN Disarmament Negotiating Forum. It was entitled Treaty on the Prevention of the Placement of Weapons in Outer Space, the Threat or Use of Force Against Outer Space Object, or PPWT. The PPWT reiterates the importance of a weapon-free outer space. It defines relevant terms such as weapons in outer space and proposes the creation of an additional protocol to establish measures of verification of compliance with the treaty. China and Russia produced a similar document in 2014, which of course the United States declined. Rather than state militaries competing and contesting outer space, it would be much cheaper and far more safe to sign the P.A.R.O.S Treaty. It's a safer and less expensive idea than creating a space force. After all, the United States already has several space commands in the Air Force, the Army, and the Navy. The US doesn't want to give access to space to other nations because they have a goal of dominating outer space. This type of thinking only makes outer space a more dangerous place, which can have devastating results for everyone on the planet. This is exactly what the global network has been fighting to prevent since 1992. To prevent an arms race to the heavens and to keep space for peaceful purposes. Utilizing outer space for the benefit of all nations and peoples could contribute to our global civilization in so many significant ways. It already has. But we have to ask, if the US dominates outer space, who benefits from that domination? It certainly won't be the majority of the people or the people of North America. It would benefit corporations and the Pentagon. And how have they provided a service to the world in the past 17 years of war? They haven't. They have their own interests and goals, and we the people of the world have our own interests and goals. In order to stop these oppressive institutions from destroying our world and thus ourselves, we must fight for the interests of humanity. So what are the interests of the people? Simply to survive the 21st century, battling issues like climate catastrophe, nuclear weapons, global inequality, and our current economic and political crises all around the globe. There is only one way to fight the oppressive institutions that are destroying our planet. We must unite our communities, our organizations, and our interests. In whatever organization you work with, protecting outer space, and to fight back against the Pentagon is an issue that should be taken up by you, by me, and by everyone. This century depends on it. We need to close the door on the barn before the horse gets out. The world is trying to close the door, and the Pentagon and the White House refuses to do so. The global network has been fighting to keep space for peace. If you'd like to join and support us, please consider visiting our website, spaceforpeace.org. You can also sign up to our mailing list, and you can share our content and follow us on social media. We have annual conferences in a different country every year. Our board members come from all over the world, and space is becoming more and more of an important issue. Please join us to keep space for peace.